Hey everybody, this is TJR. I have never lost a curiosity and passion for listening to new music. But right now, I just want to say that while I've always had this curiosity and this passion for it, my curiosity and my passion has pretty much been relegated to pop and rock music. Now, true, over the decades, I have grown to like some country music, especially old school country music, but I haven't had quite the passion to really dive into it deeply the way I have with rock and pop music. I'm also a big fan of soul music, R&B music, but I consider that part of the rock and pop category. I know some people don't. I have grown to appreciate some hip hop, but I'm still very much an outsider looking in when it comes to that kind of music. And I've certainly grown to like classical music. I'm in no way an aficionado. I am just a novice, but definitely I have a lot of classical music in my collection. I listen to it when I'm in the mood, but I'm not always in the mood for it. Mostly I'm in the mood for rock and pop. And this brings me to jazz. I've never been a big fan of jazz, which is not to say that I hate it. There's probably a handful of jazz pieces that everybody knows that I do enjoy, but I've never felt a real compulsion or desire to really examine and listen to it more closely. Of course, jazz rock, that's a whole nother story. I love that just like I love all rock. Same goes for jazz pop. But something happened this last week. As most of you know, I work a day job. And when I go to work, I always bring a little Bluetooth speaker with me, and I will play music while I'm working. Now, there is a time for exploring new music, and there is a time for enjoying the music that you've known for years that you grew up with. And during work, I want to listen to the latter because I can't really listen closely to new music when I'm working. I'm not saying that the classic rock stuff that I grew up with is background music. It's not. It's really great. But while I'm at work, it's good to have it in the background because I've heard it before. I know how it goes. It gives me a little bit of a dopamine rush to hear it, and it provides comfort while I'm at work. So the other day, I'm listening to the soundtrack album, or I should say one of the soundtrack albums for the recent Twin Peaks: The Return TV series that came out a couple years ago. This particular soundtrack album is all the pop and rock songs that were used in that series. In fact, this soundtrack features a lot of the music that was performed by the bands who appeared at the end of each episode in the Bang Bang bar scenes. By the way, I do want to recommend this album. It is a really good sampler of a lot of indie, rock, pop, and Americana artists. Now, I was listening to this album on Tidal, and like a lot of streaming services, after the album finishes, it starts to suggest other music for you. So the album finishes, and then all of a sudden I hear this. Now, even though I'm at work, when I hear this, I suddenly just stop in my tracks, and I look over to my phone to see what is playing. And I see this album art. Now, this album title is in French, and I'm not really sure I should even try to attempt to pronounce it. But it turns out this album is a soundtrack album performed by Miles Davis. It is from a 1958 French crime noir film drama of the same name. And depending on what country you are in, it's also known as Elevator to the Gallows and Lift to the Scaffold. So on just the strength of this one track, I immediately had Tidal take me to the actual album, and I started to play the album in full while I was working. And I was surprised and impressed with the effect that this music had on me. Even though I'd never heard it before, I suddenly found that it was reducing my stress levels at work like this. They were just going down, down, down. I felt tremendously relaxed while this music was playing while I was at work. And I thought, this is really great. So I went to Tidal and I looked up to playlists and I typed in jazz just to see what would happen. and I found this playlist called Night Jazz, and that seemed to feel like it was similar to what I'd just been listening to. So I played that playlist, and I began to have the same exact effect from it. And for the last couple days, when I come in the morning to work, I've just been playing some of these jazz playlists while I'm working, and it has this wonderful relaxing effect. I find it's really great for the early part of the day leading into lunch. After lunch, I start playing more, rock and pop albums, but leading into the first part of the day, I think it starts the day off really well. Now, in my lifetime, I have found that it's true that sometimes there are genres of music that you may not listen to them actively, but they serve a practical purpose when you listen to them passively. For instance, there is this YouTube video out there. It's a playlist. It's a streaming playlist on YouTube. I think it's called Chill Beats to Listen to While Studying. It shows this picture of this little anime girl who is studying and her cat occasionally roams around. And the video sequence is just in a loop. And while I wouldn't listen to this actively, I have found that when I'm at home sometimes and I need to get work done, like I need to take care of the monthly bills or I need to sit and write, that this kind of music is very conducive to just concentrating on a project or a task. So for right now, I've discovered that listening to this type of jazz is having a very relaxing and calming effect on me while I'm at work. And I really need that right now because because of the current crisis, I am being strongly encouraged to work a lot of overtime hours. And this music has helped to pass this time a whole lot easier. Now I wonder, does this mean that I'll start getting more heavily into jazz? I don't know. One thing though, I am beginning to explore that initial soundtrack album by Miles Davis, and I'm also real fascinated to see this movie now. But to me, it's just an example of how you never know when you're going to discover something new. Like I said, at work, I'm not trying to hear new music. I'm trying to play what I already know. But all of a sudden, Tidal just did its thing. It played me this piece, and suddenly a light bulb went off in my head. So, yes, so now I am listening to jazz, maybe at this moment casually, not intensely, casually, but I am listening now. And I wonder, has anyone else experienced something like this? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what genre of music was and what happened. And did you go from casual to more avid listener? I'm just curious. Anyways, everybody, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. And if you like what I'm doing, be sure to click like, click subscribe, and smash the bell icon so you can know when I release new videos. But I am curious to know what you think, everybody. What type of experiences have you had that are similar? Please let me know in the comments. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.